And then Matt, just kick us off.
Yeah. And did you update the?
Yep, we are live on Twitch and YouTube right now. So we'll go ahead and
That's
clap in though.
crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's clap 3, 2, 1. All
That
right.
was terrible.
That's close.
All right. Here
Go
we
Enough.
for it, Matt.
go.
Enough.
Okay. Hey everyone, it's Matt,
And this is Lucas,
and this is Thanks for Playing.
the podcast where we break down the most iconic video games the world has to offer.
Oh! Woo! I haven't been live doing this in a fucking minute. Hot
I know,
damn.
this is cool.
I'm
This is
excited.
cool. It's probably been a couple of years. This
Um,
is Tim's first time live.
It do be.
Yes, it
Do
is.
be. Timron, how you doing, baby?
I'm good. Just super tired. Past few days have been a lot with Thanksgiving with my family. Shout out to Ryan. Got to hang out with him. Play some board games, some Magic. Shout out to my brother. We played Magic pretty much all fucking day on Saturday, which is
Nice.
super cool. If you're into Magic or thinking about it, the new set is really awesome. It's set in South America, a lot of cool mechanics. You won't know what the hell is going on, but that's kind of the best part of Magic.
Yeah.
And then on the not so fun busy part, I've been roach prepping my apartment all weekend because they got to
Roach
do some
what?
stuff
Huge
tomorrow.
bummer. Huge
Dude,
bummer.
it
You got
sucks.
roaches?
Our building has roaches. Luckily, my particular unit doesn't, but they have to go through and every unit essentially to clean out. So I had to pack my kitchen, my bathroom. So I'm living out of IKEA bags and random boxes. So that part's ass, but everything else is going pretty solid.
Hell yeah.
Man. How long are you gonna wait?
Um,
So how long are you gonna be out for? What's
Just a day,
what's the
luckily.
ultimate-
Thank God.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So hopefully by
Okay.
the time I come home from work tomorrow, we could reset the kitchen and the bathroom. It's just Hurricane Timuron just, hit my apartment for a good couple days.
Yeah.
And still is
Yeah.
looking at it.
Yeah.
Dang. Well,
Yeah.
we do have one thing to loop back, which is the Thanksgiving auction.
God
Actually.
damn it.
So the Thanksgiving auction was actually won by Matt, according to our Discord voters. So
A rare
Matt won-
dub for old Matty boy.
Matt, yeah,
A
that's,
rare
that's
dub.
pretty rare. Yeah. So I mean, Matt won. Second in voting was actually Tim, you.
I'll take it.
And Matt
I'll take
won
it.
with a pretty rounded out lineup of what is this? Mac and cheese, stuffing, cranberry sauce, Brussels sprouts, wine, and turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
how was your?
I think it
guys'
was the
Thanksgiving?
wine.
Did
that
you
did
have?
it.
Did you guys have a nice Thanksgiving?
I had a lovely Thanksgiving. I had everything actually at my Thanksgiving that was listed on my list there, and some from Timberons as well. And it was delightful. It was small, close, just a few members from my extended family, then my immediate family. But it was really nice. Back in
Nice.
Orange County for a hot minute. Can't complain. Food is great. Ate a lot. Went to Pachanga the next day with Neil. Lost some money.
Nice.
That's a good Thanksgiving
Matt went
weekend.
to Pachanga on Friday. Can you believe that? This dude.
I got demons. I got demons. I really
Such
do.
a degenerate.
I know. Hey, you know what the important thing is though? I set my limit and I didn't pull out anymore. That's what's important.
You didn't dig.
I didn't dig. I was tempted. I
Yeah.
was
Love you
tempted.
for that. Love that
I
for
was
you.
fighting demons, but yeah, gamble responsibly, everyone. I have a quick story though, actually. Well, Timberon, we had your Thanksgiving. It was good. Lucas, you were sick, unfortunately, right?
I was sick. Yes,
Yeah.
I was sick. I
Yeah.
was sick all weekend. So just started feeling better
Oh,
yesterday, and then
man, that
yesterday was
sucks.
chore day.
I'm glad
So,
you didn't get COVID at least.
Yeah. I just
I was
got this
down for the count
cold.
with COVID for a minute there, and
Yeah, I just have this cold that's been going around. It's like kind of a pretty nasty sore throat, to be honest. I know about 3-4 people that have gotten it. My parents got it.
Actually,
Katie actually
my wife
it,
got
so,
that too.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Oh, you didn't get sick though?
Somehow I didn't,
Dang.
but I got my flu shot super early this year. So I guess I'm this
See, I
episode's
didn't-
Mr.
I didn't do
Pfizer.
it. Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, I
Yeah.
should have listened to Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, dude, you should.
all right, I got a quick story time today. Something happened to me at work. Probably my most
Okay.
embarrassing moment, actually, in a meeting in a hot minute. So as some of you may or may not know, I have been expanding the old Matthew brand a bit. Been posting on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube more under the Good Idea Matthew moniker. Good Idea Matt on TikTok actually, because Matthew was. I should fix that. Anyways, so I had a really funny TikTok today. Actually, really funny. In my opinion. It was basically me like saying out loud like really typical corporate email phrases. Like, oh, like I hope this finds you well, or like looping in my manager. And then for
I
the
saw this
subtitle,
earlier.
I put, oh, like what you actually say. So for example, like if someone says I'm looping my manager, what they're really saying is I'm gonna fucking kill you. Don't test me. Like I will go to war on this. So I was editing that during a meeting because I knew it was a meeting where I didn't really have to say anything for the most part, at least in the first half. They weren't talking about my markets, and I'm for 3 years, boys, I have been so good about my mute button. I
Oh
have always been on mute when
no.
I need to be. And all of a sudden, I don't know why I
Bruh.
went off mute on accident, or maybe I said something real quick, then went back, forgot to put it back on mute. But I didn't go back on mute. And during this meeting, I start editing my TikTok, and I have the stupid Wii music playing in the background. And you just hear me over and over saying this shit.
Oh no.
And it's playing so loud through my phone that, and I'm just wearing earbuds at first. I don't hear my team
No.
members saying like, Matt, what the hell is that? And thank God I was in the call with my manager, and he knows what I've been doing, so he knew immediately what it was.
Wow.
And he was like, Matt, like what are you doing there, man? Like what is that? And the other people
Oh,
in my
man.
call are just like, what the heck?
Oh
And
dude.
I stopped it, and I was like, all right, I have two options. I can just leave the call. That was the first thing that came to my mind. There was like a 3-second pause before I said anything. I was like, oh God, do I leave the call? I'm panicking. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to own it. So I came back off mute. I was like, you know what, everyone? I was editing a TikTok.
Nice.
I was like, there was no way for me to like not.
You weren't getting
I
out of
just have
that
to own
alive.
it. I wasn't getting out of that alive. And thank God, like this is a meeting with people I can get away with it in. But man,
That's
I was
good.
like, some other meetings I would have gotten my ass eaten, and it was stressful. And it was really funny too because it was all like just literally corporate email phrases they were hearing me say over and over. It was fun. So follow me on TikTok, Good Idea Matt, and YouTube and Instagram, Good Idea Matthew. But more importantly, everyone, to follow the podcast on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. That's at TFE Podcast. That's at TFE Podcast with an S at the end. We've been a little bit better about posting content on there lately. Timuron has been crushing it on our Twitter. Really appreciate you handling that. Timuron,
Hell
doing
yeah.
a great job.
No problem.
Really taking a load
Anything
off
for
my
our like
musician
dozens of
shoulders.
followers.
Hey man,
Dude,
we love our
they're
dozens
thirsty.
of followers.
I
They're
do too.
thirsty. Yeah. And of course, as well, you can also shoot us email at thanksforplayingpod@gmail.com, or you can check out our website, thanksforplaying.live. Hoping to get some more written content up there in the near future. We haven't been too active on there in the minute, but it is a beautiful website, and we intend to make use of it, my friends. And of course, join the Discord, best place to reach any of us. Always a good time in there. Very active, honestly, right now.
I love our Discord.
It's fun.
Source of entertainment basically every day.
Yeah, it's pretty
Really
great.
is.
You can find the link to join the Discord either on the website, thanksforplaying.live, or you can go ahead and join. Go to the link tree on any of the aforementioned social media handles and find the link to the Discord there, or shoot us an email, thanksforplayingpod@gmail.com, and I'll personally send you back a invite to the Discord as well with a selfie that is just going to get more and more lewd the longer it takes for someone to email me. So look forward to that, everyone. It's going to be a good time.
I might have to email just to
And,
get the picture.
Yeah, we need the
Honestly.
picture as soon as possible. We'll get an
Yeah.
alias going and send an email over. All right, Matt, that takes us to the
Sweet.
fun part. What are we talking about today?
Everyone, today we are talking about the number one man spider simulator, Spider-Man 2 for the PS5 by Insomniac Games. Dun. Woo.
That is right.
Um,
The third person action adventure superhero game by Insomniac Games, the brand new Marvel Spider-Man 2. 8 out of 10 from IGN, 8 out of 10 from GameSpot, 9 out of 10 from Destructoid, and a 90 out of 100 on Metacritic. Lots to talk about here. Honestly, I'm really excited to talk about this with you guys specifically. I think this is a great round of guests that we have, a great round of contributors for this episode specifically. This game has been anticipated basically all year, PS5 exclusive, and we spent a lot of really solid time with it. And I'm stoked. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I think for everyone, especially obviously myself and Tiburon, I know we both played the originals, and both comic book fans are really looking forward to this one. And yeah, I think this is gonna be interesting in particular because Tiburon and I, but Tim, you played the previous Spider-Mans, right? And Miles Morales.
Yeah, I played the first one. It
Yeah,
came out,
so
I think, 2018. Miles Morales, and
yep.
I was thinking back, and I played a decent amount of like the Spider-Man games that were made by Insomniac. So, like, I don't know. I was when I was playing, I was like, oh shit, this reminds me of like the really pixelated Spider-Man from like 2000, Spider-Man 2 for
Yeah.
PS2, which was in your draft.
Oh, that was a
Web of
iconic
Shadows,
game.
Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of crazy, like just looking at the trajectory of how Spider-Man's games like evolved over time. But
Probably one
definitely
of the
played
more
the Insomniac ones.
Yeah, probably one of the more
Yeah.
enduring games or superheroes that get made into a game in general. You know, I think Spider-Man probably has had by far the most there, but I'm excited to jump into this because yeah, Lucas has only played this most recent iteration, so
Mhm.
some diverse opinions here. But real quick, for those that may not be too familiar with the general plot of this game, I'd like to share a brief synopsis. Then we can jump right into it. Beware, everyone. Once this synopsis ends, this will be a more spoiler-y podcast, so be mindful of that, and we'll jump into it. Taking place after the events of Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2 revolves around Peter Parker and Miles Morales as they struggle to balance their personal lives with their responsibilities as superheroes. They face new threats, including a private militia led by Kraven the Hunter, who transforms New York City into a hunting ground for superpowered individuals, and the Venom symbiote, which bonds with Peter and adversely affects his personality, putting his personal relationships at risk. Whew. Let's talk
Putting
about
his
Insomniac a
personal
little bit.
relationships at risk. Did you write that?
Yes, I've been utilizing Chat GPT a bit more
Okay,
lately.
okay. That's
for these,
such a light way of putting it.
I know. He basically goes sicko mode on everyone in his
Well, it's
life.
like
But
you mean putting the whole entire world at risk is
nah,
closer to what actually ends up happening somehow.
Nah.
Let's jump into initial thoughts right away. Timron, I want you to kick us off here because I know you're a big Spider-Man guy. You're a big comic guy,
Yeah.
a big Marvel guy. Let's hear it.
The opening, first impressions, this game went freaking hard from the jump. Like one thing I really loved in the first game that they kind of brought back in this one, and I'm just a sucker for it, is that seamless transition of kind of like it's a day in the life. Like Peter's coming in, he's trying to teach at school. Miles is like, bro, something's up. And then they just instantly like suit up, and then the game immediately just like seamlessly transitions to the web swinging towards the threat that's attacking the city, which is Sandman. And one thing that kind of caught me off guard in a good way is that the scale of the Sandman fight is so big. It was like No
Huge.
Way Home's climax is the opening to this game.
Yeah.
So the first impression was I got really hyped because it did all the right things to introduce you back into the world of Spider-Man. Big bad villain, iconic villain. If you've seen the movies, whether it's No Way Home or Spider-Man 3, it's just like, oh shit, Sandman's going berserk. And it was just really fun to come back into that world. It took a second to kind of get used to like the swinging mechanics and the combat and all of that. Mostly because I've been playing Baldur's Gate, which is a completely different game. But it was really fun, and I really enjoyed getting into it. And then kind of my gripe with other open world narrative heavy games, it starts super strong and then it kind of slowed down a little too fast for me. So we'll get into some of my complaints with the story later, but it's like the game kind of blew its load really early, really fast, and it took a while to kind of get back up to that point for me. So it took a little bit for Spider-Man 2 to kind of get me back into it. But from beginning to end, I really enjoyed it overall. I enjoyed the other two games, which shouldn't be a surprise. And this game's just a natural continuation of those two games. So if I like the two games, this one fits right in. So it's hard for me to not like anything that was presented.
A game blowing its load early reminds me of a certain Greek gods game.
I think you egg me on to hate you, Matt. I swear to fucking God.
I don't even.
You're like, oh, Tim hates me. Why? And it's like, You say dumb shit like that.
I don't even agree with that, to be honest.
I know.
What? God of War Ragnarok totally blew its load early with the
Yeah, dude, the fight with Thor was pretty
Thor fight.
amazing, and then
Yeah.
That's
the
true, I
narrative kind of
guess, yeah.
halted.
Yeah.
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 I pretty much agree with everything that you just said. This was my first Spider-Man game. Of the Insomniac
Like,
Spider-Man games.
oh, okay. It's like ever. That'd
Yeah,
be
I mean,
insane.
dude, I remember playing the Spider-Man game that was on like Dreamcast forever ago. I think it was. There was a
Yeah,
GameCube
fucking love that
Spider-Man
game.
game. Yeah, so I mean, I played them over the years and obviously grew up with like the original trilogy of Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi directed movies, and loved those as a kid. And then of course, I'm a fan of the current cinematic Spider-Man with Tom Holland and stuff. But excuse me, still getting over my sickness. The and I mean, of course, I love like Miles Morales and like the animated Spider-Man movies that are
Yeah.
currently out. So it's kind of cool to see like everything collide in this game in such a way where it's like, okay, I have like kind of your classic Peter Parker character, but then this like Miles Morales character as well, who's like kind of definitely the younger Spider-Man that I've like begun to really appreciate and really like in this current generation. And then just seeing them kind of side by side in this game, no context, like haven't played the other games, was always just really cool off the bat. So the first mission was really, really awesome for me because I was like, oh, dang, these guys are just immediately going in and fighting this crazy supervillain. You're kind of like doing combos together and like running around and flying through this, like
Yeah.
swinging everywhere. I thought it was just really, really cool. And then like kind of exploring the different lives throughout the games of each character was really interesting and really fun, I thought. But yeah, I mean, I think that the pacing of the overall story is a little bit weird. Like the final third of the game is basically just a boss run. It's just like
Yeah.
every mission is just like a boss fight, boss fight, boss
Yeah.
fight, to the point where like I kind of just like got pretty sick of it at a certain point. And there's a nitpick I have that's a pretty hilarious nitpick for later on in this episode. But overall, I think the game was fun. Honestly, the best part of the game for me too was running around, just traversing, just swinging across the city. And I
Yes.
think like there's this kind of like hard part in the game where I almost didn't even want to go to a main mission because traversing was more like kind of freeing and interesting to me than like it felt like you were parkouring and like freestyling and like having fun
Yeah.
while you were traversing when you got a lot of like your skill tree upgrades. And then you got interrupted by like a mission where you would sometimes be in a very confined area. That kind of bummed me out here and there. But we'll get more into that when we talk about game design. But I will say this is probably one of the coolest Marvel things I've experienced in a long time. I haven't really been a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a little while, except for Across the Spider-Verse, except for the animated Spider-Mans. Those are just like, those are almost on another level. Like those are just so
Yeah.
good.
They're their own tier by far.
They're their own tier. I guess the Marvel
Agreed.
the proper MCU, I just haven't really been that into in the last basically since Endgame, like most of us. But this kind of was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is great. Love these characters. Love Spider-Man. And I just felt good about it once again. So yeah, my initial thoughts right there.
My let me preface this with, I am like probably one of the bigger Spider-Man fans out there. I by far my favorite superhero growing up. I am dead ass convinced I should have been the most recent Spider-Man, not Tom Holland. I've said that several times on this podcast. I know. Spider-Man for Halloween, I was walking around in spandex. It was great. I felt powerful. I felt like it was
It's
honestly
hot.
like I was kind of the whole time I was just kind of geeking to myself, like I am him. I was having a blast. And I gotta say, boys, this game is good, but like, man, does it feel? And Lucas is where we'll obviously have different experiences, but man, does it feel near identical to the first two games that we played. Timoran would have played Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I think the game, like I mentioned, blows its load very early, and it's a game that it's very safe. It's like
Yeah.
it's a game that does no wrong, and in that vein, it also never excels. It's just like skating along the line of fine. Like, this is fine, this is decent, this is good. But because it's just dancing on that line and never does anything interesting, it never has the chance to kind of like, become something greater than what it has been in the past. And like, it's a shame because you see the similarities in the game from the combat, from even how the story beats kind of play out relative to the first game, which I'll get into. So I was a little disappointed in that because I think a lot of third-person fighting games fall into that trap, or not fighting games, but third-person adventure games, to where everything just feels very um, similar as the game goes on, even as like upgrades and stuff are introduced. And I really felt that same way here pretty early on in this game. That said, the opening sequence is phenomenal. It's a cinematic masterpiece. The opening sequence, I think, it's extremely well done. That scene where Miles gets like slingshotted through all the buildings, like that is incredible. It's an incredible
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
The set pieces in this game, in general, are incredible. Um, and the web slinging still feels very great, and they added some really cool options too with um, the web suit, the web wings, the squirrel suit, basically is what it is. um, and some of the other stuff. And it's good, and I'm excited to talk about it today because there's I think a lot of good and a lot of mediocre we're gonna get into, and
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I if I wanted to show somebody, like if I wanted to sell them the PS5 or sell them like a next gen game on a console, I'd have them play like the first 10, 15 minutes of this game and go like, wasn't that sick? Don't you want to buy this? Don't you want to buy this console and this game now? Or like,
Yeah.
don't you
Yeah.
think you should buy this game for your nephew for Christmas now? It's like it's just such like a selling point for the game, I feel like. And it truly is like one of the best openings, I feel like, for a game. Like a lot of games have really intriguing openings or openings that kind of pull you in a little bit, but this one just seriously like goes super hard. Kind
Yeah.
of like God of War 2 or Ragnarok. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Should we jump into when did it click, or we want to go straight to game design? Because I don't know if when did it click really applies here.
I mean, I think it kind of clicked for all of us right away. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Spider-Man, like
Yeah.
you're slinging around New York City, you're having fun. It's and it's not like it's a hard to understand game. It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
I think we can jump into story design here and just the
Oh yeah,
story in general.
I got a lot to say here.
Yeah, I guess I'll just start. So something I think this is a classic kind of like superhero Marvel-esque story that we've come to know and love. What I was disappointed in is that. So let me preface more. I did actually. I enjoyed the story. I was excited to continue through it. I was excited to find out what happened with Venom, what happened with Craven, and everything. I was interested to see how the characters develop. Where I got a little frustrated was when I could start pretty early on predicting exactly how it was going to go, because I played the first. Excuse me. I played the first Spider-Man, and for those that haven't played the first Spider-Man, spoilers. Here we go, but the first Spider-Man, you have Doctor Negative or Mister Negative, who is like the first big bad you face in the game, and it's kind of presented as, oh, that's going to be the big person you have to face. And then you have this friend, Doc Ock, who's just helping you, and you're just doing your sciencey stuff with. And then as the game progresses, all of a sudden it becomes, oh, we beat Mister Negative, that's great, but Doc Ock isn't actually our friend. It turns out he's the big bad. And this game does kind of like the very similar same thing, to where we get Craven presented to us. He's the one that's hyped up in all of like the promotional material for the most part, along with Venom, but like he's hyped up as kind of the big bad. And then all of a sudden, like 3/4 of the way through the game, that's kind of put on its head. Craven dies honestly kind of lamely, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Was
there ever a
Harry
world
is the
where
big bad?
I mean, we knew in the marketing that the symbiote was in this game. Like, was there ever a world where they were getting away with tricking us like that? I mean, it was like Venom's the bad guy. I just thought Craven was always a distraction over like, because the symbiote's actually introduced
Well-
I don't
even
think-
earlier.
I was hoping we'd see
Yes.
something more intertwined rather than just a handoff, I guess. That's how
It's
I
like a
felt
pure
about
hand.
it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just like, it's Craven, and then it's Venom once the suit gets back to Harry. Which I gotta say, man, those spider senses are real selective. I have no idea how Peter let that fucking thing get cracked carrying the symbiote when he brought it back to Harry. For those that aren't aware, in the game, at a point, the symbiote starts off bonded to Harry. Harry gives it to Peter to save his life when he gets gravely injured from Craven. Peter can't get it off, and when he does finally get it off, he takes it back to the labs to get destroyed. Harry's like, "Fuck no, I need that." To be fair, stay alive. He needs it. But man, I mean, Peter's spider senses really failed him. Like, he got literally beat by a cripple in that situation, basically. Because at that point, Harry is effectively
Jesus, Matt. Wow. I'm gonna timestamp that.
I mean, he's walking around with a cane. Cripple might be strong, but someone that
I, don't
is.
know, I think that
at
word's
that
out. I
point-
think that word's outdated. Is it? Is it
All
not?
right.
Yeah, man. I don't think it's the best word to use in 2023. But
All right.
physically
Handicapped,
challenged? I
I
don't know.
apologize. Physically challenged.
Yeah.
He's sick. He's very weak. He
A
should not
dying
be able to
man.
beat Spider-Man.
Yeah. A dying man.
A dying man beat him, and I was just like, man,
Yeah.
that you're telling me I can dodge bullets without looking at him, but a dying man comes at me with a cane and I die. That is, or I lose
Yeah.
the most important thing in the
You
game.
lose
That
it.
is
Yeah.
a little whack. And yeah, the whole thing just felt very formulaic relative to the first game, which I was disappointed in.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't going off of what I know, just experiencing this game on its own, and yeah, honestly, like super bloated story for me. Like I feel like at a certain forgot what we were doing and why we were doing it. Like, I mean, at a certain point, you fight Reptile, and then in like one mission, and the next mission, you're Miles, fighting like Mr. Negative, and then you're at a zoo as Mary Jane trying to like break Dr. Connors out. Like at a certain point, it got very convoluted, and then even like all of a sudden I'm playing as Venom, and all of a sudden I'm fighting Craven. So like it became very and then all of a sudden you're fighting Scream like not that long after that. And like it was like this, like they had all these like kind of plot lines of like, oh, MJ and Peter's relationship is on the rocks, so let's just have MJ become Scream. They fight and then we resolve that, and that's a whole mission for you, right? And like I just feel like they ham-fisted that right in as a way to like make it make sense, but within the actual like pacing of the story, it kind of just like comes and happens and then ends like within a mission. Basically that whole thing happens, and then like like I got pretty like I was kind of rolling my eyes when I became Venom and then fought Craven and kill Craven, and I was just like, okay, what's the point of this now? Like why didn't that just happen in a different sort of way? I don't know, like becoming the somewhat bad guy and then fighting as him. I don't think that really did much for me at that point. Oh yeah, and then you're also Miles fighting Peter before that. So it's like, I don't know, it's like multiple climaxes that happen, you know, like when you're watching those stories or watching one of those movies, or you're like, oh dang, this is a pretty climactic moment, and then the next moment is like the climactic moment, and it just kind of keeps going, not in a really like effective way, but in more of like a bloated sort of way is the way I describe it. And there's also just a lot of villains. There's like too many. Yeah,
bro, you should have played the first game. They had the literal Sinister Six.
Yeah, they did.
Like everybody in that shit.
Yeah.
I think.
Would you say it was effective?
Narrative. I think narratively, because I agree with a lot of what you two are saying. This is where I feel like the first game hurt the sequel, because for me, when I was thinking back on the narrative and I saw like the same parallels you did, Matt, I felt like the first game did a really good job being lightning in a bottle of the twist of like, here's your main bad, and then we'll hand it off, and now here's your real main bad. And just for spoiler, the Sinister Six did work out because Doc Ock, in his attempt to get his revenge on Norman Osborn, fight Spider-Man, he frees Spider-Man's rogues gallery from the Raft prison. So like narratively, it's like they were already there because we're not at the beginning of Spider-Man's like life as a superhero. We're in the middle of it. So like these villains already existed in the universe and the lore. But for me, I feel like, yeah, the first game teases that Harry's Venom, like in a post-credit scene. So we already know it's coming. And then all the advertisement and materials, they hyped Venom so much that I think that really fed into the predictability of the narrative itself. Because I wasn't shocked really by anything. And I didn't get that same like, oh shit kind of moment that I had in the first game when Doc Ock turns on you, which is one of my favorite things from just across the Insomniac verse in general, is that, you know, the cliche like friend, like mentor turned enemy, but it was done well and it had the build up, and like it was kind of hinted at, but it wasn't completely as you said, ham-fisted. But this game, like, I think because that stuff happens, it's almost like, I don't know if you guys got this sense, but I kind of felt like the when the fuck is Venom gonna show up, like kind of like through line in the narrative, because you're fighting Craven this whole time. It's like, okay,
yeah.
I mean, the Craven thing wasn't fooling anybody. Like the symbiote's literally on the box art for this game. Like when you load up,
exactly,
you see it. So it's like it's not Craven, you know. So you're kind of like not really fooled by any of like the story beats that are kind of happening
No, exactly. And that's for me, I feel like there was missed opportunities to kind of play with the mystery somewhat. Cause you guys remember like when you're in a mansion and you learn like Craven has cancer and he's dying
That was
and
cool.
shit like that.
I
Like
fuck with that.
that was
Yeah.
I like
cool.
that part of
But
his
like
backstory. Yeah.
but here's what like kind of got me excited. I was actually hoping like, oh, what if they turned the tables in some kind of way? Because like maybe me being a Spider-Man fan worked against me. Eddie Brock had cancer and the symbiote saved him from that cancer. So I was like, oh shit, hold on. Are they gonna like pull the rug out and like make Craven Venom? And for me, I was like, oh, that might make sense as I was going through that. And then literally one mission later, you turn into Venom and kill him. So I was like,
that would have been sick.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so there was
Cool.
like so as I was playing like the narrative and I was playing, I just felt like there's so many missed opportunities to do something really cool and creative with the lore that still fits within the Spider-Man box, but it didn't. It honestly doubled down on its formula. And I'm probably going to use the word double down a lot because of just how many things I saw coming back from the first two games. And then in terms of story and narrative, to go on to Miles' beat you mentioned, Lucas, I feel like Miles kind of got shafted narratively. Like he was only there to play like
He did.
the sane Spider-Man. And like his biggest purpose was making sure Peter like got out of his like spider like symbiote suit. Like everything that like made him interesting in a Miles Morales game just wasn't there at the core of his narrative. Like the biggest thing's like he needs to write his college essay.
Missions. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, I mean, this was
relegated.
Spider-Man 2, right? Not Miles Morales 2.
Yeah, okay.
But the way
I
the
guess
game
that's
was
fair.
framed is it's together. Like I was expecting a tandem narrative with the two of them intertwined deeply, like in their
Yeah, and,
in each other's thing.
With the skill tree, like with the missions, like it is pretty evenly divided in terms of like who you're playing as and like who you want to upgrade and stuff, because they each do have separate skill trees, but then they have a shared skill tree that you could spend points on. So I was expecting the same thing as you, Tim. But yeah, I mean, basically Miles Morales' character development is relegated to side missions and stuff, which are like okay for those, and I kind of liked them, but it definitely does feel like a relegation where you're like, okay, we have to go to the side mission to get his like cool narrative, and like his friends Gangi and what's her name?
Haley?
What's the deaf? Haley?
Yeah, I think it's Haley. Yeah.
She all of her development also was like side mission based as well. And like there was like in the main storyline, there was like a moment where he's like, hey, you want to go out sometime? And it's literally like 1 minute of him just like, I like you. You want to go out? And she's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then he goes off and then he's Spider-Man again. It was like that was really lame.
But like to that point too of why I think like the Miles like kind of lack of development or narrative in this game really stood out. Like I think he was asking Haley out while Peter in like the meanwhile moment, Peter's fighting for his life against like the symbiotes popping all over the city. Yeah. So he's here like asking out his girl, like his like wannabe girlfriend, and Peter's fucking dying out there. And I'm like, narratively, how does this make sense? But maybe that's more of a nitpick,
even.
But it was still
Man,
it wasn't even at all.
We triggered you. Yeah, you were upset about this,
dude. Every episode I'm with Matt, I'm triggered, so this shouldn't be that surprising.
You guys agree on this though. You guys are like on the same page.
No, that's what's wild.
Hey, what did we think about when Craven was getting choked out by Spider-Man though, and he's like harder. I got a big kick out of that personally because I was blown away. There was not a lot of memes about that, so took it in my own hands.
Yeah,
my own hands.
It was a fire TikTok.
Craven's intro. Also, okay, like how much resources does Craven actually have? Like
it's very.
Dude, I was kind of wondering
this man has a small country backing him. What is that?
Yeah.
What is? Can someone explain the Craven lore to me, as you two Spider-Man fans?
I don't know the full lore. Do you know, Hylette?
Not his origin. I do know he comes from like aristocratic family from the Soviet Union.
Okay.
That's all I honestly remember. I'm pretty sure Chameleon was his brother too in the comics. So like he comes from money, but this is like the bro's more like loaded like 3 times as much as Elon at this point or something.
Dude, yeah, he for real had a small country army to back him up. He had like Wakanda level shit going on. He had like camo, he had like helicopters. He had like super soldiers.
It's odd to me that like there's no mention of like what the military or police would try and do to combat this. Like a man with literal, like like
Everything.
his own private militia is basically taking over one of the most populous cities in the world.
I know that
Yeah,
was a little silly.
and like I know there's a certain suspension of disbelief with these things, but like you have to address that some way. Like for example, in like the Dark Knight Rises, right when Bane is threatening everything with like his militia and like he's taking over the city and releasing all the prisoners, like he threatens that by blowing up the bridges and then threatening everyone with a nuke if they try and enter, basically, right? Like that's a good way to like
Yeah.
let that scenario happen.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's just happening and it kind of makes zero sense.
Yeah, I know. And like the other
And
thing is just like, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was gonna say, and like in the lore established by like the game environment, like the Avengers exist. Doctor Strange like has his sanctum there.
Yeah,
There's a
you go
fucking
to it.
Wakandan embassy. It's
Yeah.
like one thing I think that could have made this game kind of cool is like at least some of those hero cameos. So maybe explain like, oh no, like we're fighting Thanos right now. You're on your own, Spider-Man. Like something like that. But it just yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
caught that, and
that's
it's
great.
funny because it happens in the first fucking game too, where a militia takes over New York City. So
Yeah, and
it's
then
like,
J.
what
J.
the
Jonah
fuck? Like
Jameson is
again?
just blaming Spider-Man. The only thing
Right?
you
Yeah, but
get
that's
is just like Jameson. Well, like okay, Coney Island gets completely like annihilated through
yeah,
like just a series of fights that happen because of Craven's army and Spider-Man and Harry, and then like the next thing, the next story beats J. Jonah Jameson just like, oh, Coney Island was destroyed because Spider-Man fought there, and like no mention of the fact that they were an army
yeah,
entering Coney Island and like destroying it, and it's like, and then you destroy like the Emily May Foundation. You like, there's like so much destruction that happens in the city that it's kind of unbelievable that like there's no mention of it. There's like throwaway lines of just like, oh yeah, man, a lot of people could have died there. We gotta fight or whatever. It's like that's all there really is. But yeah, there's a huge suspension of disbelief for me, especially just Craven's resources. There's like flying iron birds around the city as side missions at one point.
dude,
And
or
it's like
like
you're telling me everyone's just ignoring
super
like
like
the warbirds?
like robot dog shit too.
Yeah, those are just getting ignored on the street. It's crazy.
Pretty crazy. Yeah, they're just like literally running around in a park and like no one's doing anything.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Should we jump? We've been on story for a little while. Do we have anything else on story?
Nah. Let's get into game design.
Okay,
I'm-
I got. Can I cook on this one for a second? I got a bone to pick
cook,
here.
brother. You can cook.
Okay, like I said
Please.
earlier, I feel like one of the best parts of the game, if not the best part of the game, was traversal. I thought movement in the game was great. I thought like the wide open space was great. Flying, like managing some cooldowns in movement where you could like do the leap thing and then like you
Mhm.
could do, there was like certain abilities you unlocked where you could like loop around a building corner like very very quickly, or you could like do that 180 loop around a building if you're like falling from far enough. Like all those were so fun. I think like it was great to get to a point, and then as soon as I started a mission and like the mission went to a small arena or like interior where you had to like sneak around, I was like, man, I gotta sneak around now. It's like I was having so much fun jumping around. Now I'm in this small warehouse and I gotta sneak around. And like it was its own like little world. Like I did enjoy doing some of like the sneaking missions or some of the missions in a smaller confined area. But then the moment that you leave that mission and you're like Spider-Man perched on the edge of a building, the game becomes like freeing and open again. And I think when you like to quote IGN, you know, when you feel the most like Spider-Man, it kind of is during those moments where you're swinging and flying around through the city. And I just think that in the game design, they could have probably designed more things that involved that, if that's the most fun part of the game, right? Like I think chasing cars was really fun as side missions. There was a few main story missions where you would swing and you would try and catch up with like the enemy that was flying away. Those are really fun parts of the game too. And then near the end when you fight Venom, there's like moments of swinging in some of those boss fights with Venom where you're kind of flying through the air. And that was the most fun in a boss fight for me. So like I feel like there was a lot of aerial tricks and a lot of aerial stuff that the game had as a big strength. And I think they actually should have expanded the arenas a little bit more. There should have been like a lot more versatility and movement and stuff, because the game is either really, really big, like you're flying through the city, or it's really small, like you're in like a 50 foot by 50 foot box arena fighting people and like dodging 2 feet to the left or 2 feet to the right. And there's maybe a middle ground there for me. I'm not sure. I also think there should have been more movement options in general, traversal, but traversal was just kind of a byproduct of the game, not the game itself. And I think that they could have stand to make it more of the core of the game. Just saying, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're saying, traversal is definitely like the strongest part of the game overall. It's the most fun part, and like I mean, you
No.
have these missions where you're playing in like this contained warehouse, or you're playing as MJ, and it's just like a very boring stealth mission relative to like when you get to go and run around as Spider-Man. And I mean, honestly, too, overall, even just like the combat or when you're fighting like a big group of enemies, it gets very old very quick. It almost turns into like a rhythm game in my mind, where it's just like square, 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 circle, go under the guys with the shield legs, square, 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 triangle, square. Like it becomes very rhythmic and very just cookie cutter in that regard. And gets very old very quickly. And I think that's something that in general, a lot of third person combat games, not combat, action adventure games like God of War or this, or, games like that really struggle with, where the combat just gets very repetitive very quickly. Um, and I'm not sure what the right fix for that is. Obviously a game I haven't played it through all the way, but I know everyone loves like Zelda. Obviously, the more recent Zelda is Breath of the Wild. Well, I played Breath of the Wild all the way, but Ocarina of Time, where obviously it does good things there to make the combat more refreshing, I think. But yeah, I think this kind of formula needs to be worked on if they want to keep being as successful as it has been. Because I do think gamers are going to start to wise up, especially when Insomniac's next game comes out, Marvel's Wolverine. Um, I'm very curious to see how well it will do and how well it'll be
It's
received, because traversal carried this game, and obviously Wolverine is a spry individual, but I don't think they're going to be slinging webs anywhere.
I feel like this entire formula of combat came out in Arkham Asylum,
Arkham
15 years
Asylum,
ago.
Assassin's
And
Creed.
then
Yeah.
now it's just more eye candy layered on
Yeah.
top of it in this
Yep.
generation. Like more eye candy, more ear candy is all it's really become. But like
Yeah.
the core formula of this kind of combat is the same as it's been for 15 years. Like I'm not saying that to really diss it. I think there is like it has a place, but yeah, the combat does become pretty brain dead at a certain point. Except for some of the bosses. I did appreciate some of the like mix ups, for lack of a better word. But yeah, Timuron, what'd you think?
I completely agree. I'm glad you brought up Arkham because I thought about that game a lot. You guys didn't play through any of the Arkhams, right?
I played
Just
through like
to
half
make
of
sure.
it. I didn't beat it.
Asylum, like in
Yeah.
high school. Yeah.
Okay, but like not City or Night. When
Mm-mm.
I feel like for this type of game, for me that like Arkham City and Night, I think are the peak for this type, because at least for those games, timing's incredibly important to build up your combo. Because I noticed when I was playing Spider-Man, if I whiff on a punch, like my combo doesn't reset, I recover very quickly. The timing windows I thought were really generous for at least normal mode, which kind of shocked me. So it felt really easy and it didn't feel like it flowed either.
Mhm.
When even like as a rhythm game, whereas like playing Arkham Knight, if you like whiff on a punch, your combo falls dead, and then you get like you get hit by a thug or your enemy or whatever. So you really got to kind of pay attention to the timing when you're when you're like angling and like directing like a punch to someone, when you're countering. And for this one, I felt like that compared to the first game, they try to add in new things that didn't really feel new to me. Like the parry option was just a glorified dodge.
Yeah.
And it
But
honestly
worked
kind
on
of pissed
some
me off.
things.
Yeah. But like they look so similar that I actually got like parried when I should have dodged and vice versa. And I was like, I didn't think that like visually it did a good job of differentiating the two,
Hard
or in terms of
agree.
gameplay, changing them up. And that was no one. And then I feel like a lot of the repetition came from like how you defeated enemies too. I don't remember if the first one's better at this or not, and maybe Matt, you can remind me. But for this one, I felt like you wanted to use gadgets and abilities that stun multiple enemies, kick them up in the air, and then you just like bounce enemy to enemy almost every encounter. Like the only
Mhm.
things in the gameplay I personally like that seemed a little bit different was when Peter got to go sicko mode into symbiote suit and he became
was
more of
fun.
like a brawler. And at least like visually and aesthetically, it felt and looked different. And the haptic feedback when you were fighting, like it at least gave a different type of sensation. But I felt like, yeah, the combat was just really repetitive. One thing that I don't think this game did as good of a job as the first one was the stealth itself. Because honestly, you could just aggro through all the stealth. Like you didn't need to be stealthy for whatever reason. Whereas the first game, you had to be really careful with the stealth, and it was a bigger part of the game. And from a gameplay reflecting kind of lore standpoint, I like that because it shows Peter as like a planner and a thinker and like a, I won't say Batman level like prep and intellect, but you could tell like he thinks multiple steps ahead to
Spider-Man
get
with
through a
prep
ton of
time.
enemies. Yeah. But for this one, it wasn't that. Like if you mess up a stealth, you could just fight everybody and the reinforcements and like not take a hit. So I feel like they dumbed down the combat, like on top of just making it super repetitive. And combat isn't what kept me in the game, personally.
Yeah, there's essentially in the combat, there's like 4 resources you're taking a look at, which is like your L1 and your R1, your L1 abilities, your R1 gadgets, your rage meter, and then like your R1 like spiders, like just your webs that are getting shot out. You just like spam one enemy with the webs, like use some cooldown, use like all your cooldowns because like you have to keep them, you have to keep using them, otherwise kind of you're wasting the cooldown timer to get refreshed. And like then you occasionally, like depending on how you skill into your skill trees, you can get like specific procs on the gadgets where you get like free uses of gadgets and stuff. So it's like it kind of becomes like Skinner boxy type of thing where you're just like, ooh, that's up, hit that, ooh, button, hit that, ooh, hit that button. It's like, ooh, my rage is up, hit the rage button, and like, and you just start raging.
Kind of
and like,
mindless.
yeah, and it just it does become mindless. I actually did appreciate because some of the bosses were a little tricky for me, especially Venom was actually kind of hard, and like a lot of phases. I liked the mix-ups in some of those later boss fights. That's when the game shined the most. Just if it's just a bunch of henchmen, it's pretty brain dead. It's pretty boring actually. So I wasn't a big fan of that in terms of the combat, but
I
yeah,
actually didn't care for a lot of the boss fights either, though. I mean,
really,
I thought the multi-stage boss battles were so overdone and like so gratuitous. Like, why did I fight the lizard 4 different times in the one boss fight? Like,
yeah, and like switches arenas like twice, and then you like
or
chase him around the
Craven 3
city.
times in a row.
Yeah,
That's true.
like that's a very, you know, it's one thing if you do like a, I mean, I'm just the first thing that comes to mind. There's probably better examples, but like the Kingdom Hearts final battle with like Ansem, right? It's like it's a 3 or 4 stage boss fight, maybe 5. It's a lot. It's a lot, but each stage is very different, has its own unique feel, and it has like either completely different moveset or completely different form for the enemy you're fighting. I didn't feel that way with a lot of these multi-stage boss battles in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I'll give you that actually. I think what I liked about him was that it was a break from just hitting square over and over again and then circle over and over again. Like you actually did have to like position a little bit in those boss fights. You actually had to manage resources over a long period of is a little bit different than like encounter to encounter. And yeah, I mean Venom killed me quite a bit actually before I downed him. So there was that. And I get what you're saying though, where like it was I would kind of roll my eyes when it was like, okay, we're fighting Reptile. Okay, now we're chasing Reptile. Okay, now we're fighting Reptile again.
Yeah, it was just
that was a little bit
exhausting.
unnecessary for sure. So the Scream fight was also pretty lame. I thought it was just like really shoehorned in. Basically just comes and goes in like a matter of like one mission, which I thought was really lame. And really was like not an interesting boss fight or arena or setting or anything like that. And then Mr. Negative was kind of the same thing. You fight him, and then you go inside his brain or inside of his like whatever the hell dimension. Fight him there, and fight like a bunch of little guys, and it was just like the boss fight just kept dragging. You know. So yeah, I feel that.
Not good. Not good. I mean, hey, the suits are cool though. And I did like that they found a way to reintegrate the symbiote powers after Peter lost the first symbiote.
Yeah,
I was like, I knew there was going to be something they did, because I'm like, they wouldn't give you an option to literally build into a skill tree and then just strip you of that option like halfway through the game, more or less. So I was glad they did bring the anti venom. It's good to see. What is kind of lame though, and I don't know if they fixed this, but initially, if you were wearing if you chose to wear the black suit, but you were still using the anti venom powers, it still just came out as like the white symbiote instead of the black one. Um, I thought it was weird fast travel was included in this game at all. Is it a cool feat? It shows off the standard state.
They just
drive
wanted
that
to
every
flex, bro. They just wanted to
yeah,
flex.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
like the dumbest way to flex, because I mean, why would you not just traverse in this game? And the only time they really did try and show off like the standard state capabilities, basically like the fast loading, was in the Black Cat mission with Miles, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
like going in and out of
Doctor
locations.
Stranging through everything.
Yeah, in and
Yeah.
out of like Arctic whatever, which is cool to like see that stuff load up so quick. But
Dude,
like,
they went to the ice wall.
yeah,
That was crazy.
no, that was dope. But
It
it
was,
was
it
just
was
like,
actually pretty cool.
it was super cool. But I'm like, why? I want to see games actually like take advantage of that technology and implement it more interestingly, rather than just like a quick change of scenery here and there. It was cool though. It was very cool. No complaints about that. I did enjoy that.
I got fast travel unlocked pretty early on for like a lot of key areas. Because I did a lot of side
Mhm.
missions when I first started the game as opposed to the main stuff, and it was barely useful, honestly. Like I would
Yeah.
fast travel a little bit here and there, but it was more fun to swing and fly there anyway. So sometimes I would just not do it, even if I had the option to fast travel there. And sometimes if I was feeling really lazy or I was crunched for time and I could fit one more mission in, I would fast travel. But um, yeah, I mean, it needs to be there. It's an open world, third person action adventure game. It kind of needs to have fast travel, but and the fast travel is done really cool. But it's not. It's actually not necessary, I think, for once, just because traversal is so cool in this game.
Crazy how strong MJ
Agreed.
was. That gun.
Dude, the gun was a huge plot hole. The
Yeah.
gun was a problem,
Dude.
like for the
Yeah.
story. Like,
Dude, she was
why didn't
straight
they
up
just put
John
whatever the
Wick in
fuck-
her missions.
Yeah, why did dude? Why didn't they just put whatever the fuck was on that gun in the web slingers and just kill everything with one shot? It was just like that thing was too strong for the story, and
Yeah.
it had to be because it's MJ. But like she was a one-man army with that gun. bro.
Dude, she was
Yeah, it
holding
was
off
pretty
Venom or
insane.
whatever for like a mission. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Dude, yeah, that was ridiculous. It's like, bro, why didn't we put that on the suits?
On the web shooters, anything. Yeah.
Why don't we just make her the main character? Would have been a 10-minute
real.
game.
What'd you guys think of the MJ missions?
Pretty boring.
Unnecessary.
What'd you guys
Yeah.
think of the bike riding mission?
I don't
It-
know. Unnecessary.
Playable cutscenes are cool, I guess.
Yeah.
That
Like,
that really
I did
like, hit the
hear
wall for
an
me. I
interesting
was
take.
like,
I
bruh.
thought, I think it was I saw Brian Altano from IGN or one of those guys tweeted out that there's actually an option to just turn off the QuickTime events and cutscenes and just let it play. And they're like, yeah, this is way better instead of just like having you randomly
Oh.
press X.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I had known that.
Oh man,
Yeah.
same.
I love when the optimal way to play a game is hidden in the settings that you jump into.
Right. Yeah.
I love when they do
I
that.
don't mind QuickTime events personally, but I can see the argument of why someone would just want to.
Nah, in this game, it's not. God of War has really, really incredible quick time events. These ones are whack because you have to wait like a minute before each input. Like the Venom, the very ending where you're fighting Venom, there was literally like Miles and Peter are going toe to toe punching Venom, and it's like square, 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 and they're like punching him, and then they go into this whole scuffle and then fly all through the air. And I put my controller down, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like this is the cutscene now. And then like a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, it's another square spam QuickTime event.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I guess we're still in the QuickTime event. It's not a cutscene. So that was like it's egregious when the inputs are really far apart from each other. Like that's when it's
I
just
can
a-
agree.
a
I can
little
agree with that.
annoying. Yeah. Like I don't know if you guys or Tim, you might remember it, but or I don't know, maybe you don't, but in the original Resident Evil 4, there was a QuickTime boss fight event where you fight one of the main bad guys like in a knife fight, and the whole thing is a quick time event and it's a boss fight, and it's like hard. It's like You actually have to do all the inputs at the right time, or you just get your throat
Oh,
cut
man.
instantly. And like, it's a pretty legendary like fight. It was really really cool for the time. It's probably even really cool now. But that was interesting because you're actually alert the whole time, and like
Yeah.
you're trying to actually play the game as opposed to like these quick time events are just cutscenes with extra work, you know. And like, there's not really a consequence if you don't push the square on Venom fast enough. At least they're not gonna like give you the game over screen. You know what I mean? It's just gonna slow it down and make you
No.
do it again.
And I think if you fail quick time events in Spider-Man, it like re-loops. So like
Yeah,
like a certain cinematic will play where it's like, oh, let me get back in position again, and then
yeah.
it'll like do it all over again.
Soft.
First one was really
Soft.
egregious for that one. It is soft.
Yeah.
They should like taken a hand from the Spider-Man 3 game where if you miss a quick time event, then a really funny die animation happens.
Oh yeah, dude,
Yeah.
those are legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Missed
All right.
opportunities.
Let's jump into art style. Unless anyone has anything else they'd like to add.
I'm cool to jump to art style. I mean, from a technical level, I think everything in this game is just super on point. I don't think I had any dropped frames the whole entire playthrough. I just want to jump into the technical side of things. Art style to me, I mean, it's pretty like normie, I guess. I don't really know what else to say. It's like it kind of looks like, you know, typical AAA 3D whatever. I mean, I like all the additional like costumes and art and stuff, but to me that's just like kind of blending in, like it's kind of cheating. It's just pulling in like a style of like years and years of generations of Spider-Man stuff kind of that you
Yeah.
can borrow and just
Yeah.
implement and copy paste into the Spider-Man game. So it's hard to give it like a lot of credit for that. I feel like that's where a lot of the really cool art stuff comes from. I did like the way the symbiote looked overall. I thought most of the enemies were pretty boring.
Yeah.
And the
agreed.
flame guys, I did like a lot of those side missions.
Oh, the Cult of the Flame.
Yeah, very like mid like art style with even those like bad guys. And then the Sandman, like I did a lot of the Sandman missions. I basically did all of them. And I mean, obviously just monotonous, just nothing. So
Yeah.
yeah, some of that stuff was a little eh. So I don't give like really high praise for the art style, I guess where I'm going, except for the technical aspect.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, basically the same as the first, as far as like basic designs. Like very uninteresting, I'd say. But I mean, like Venom looks good, right? Like the main characters look good. Craven looks good.
Yeah.
Lucas, I don't know if you know this. The original Spider-Man for the PS4 actually has a different face model than this current one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude.
They used a totally different guy. I think maybe probably recency bias or first exposure bias. I think that original guy looks a lot better than the current one. He looks more older, more mature. Whereas this Peter
Most
Parker
people, I
looks
think,
kind of
agree
like
with
an
that
18-year-old.
opinion.
I think they just chose to switch to this one because they wanted him to appear more like Tom Holland, is what I think it was.
Yeah.
That was a big controversy. I still think it's I'll say this probably in every PS5 game we play because it's in every PS5 game we play. I still hate that they do performance versus fidelity mode because fidelity mode is always ass. You're getting like 25 frames max, maybe even 20 at some points. It's just not good. I'd rather them just not even say that. Just give me that one option so I think I'm getting the best possible product. It's really lame that in a console that is a choice you have to make, and whatever next gen consoles come out, whether it's the upgraded versions like the PS5 Pro or whatever the next upgraded Xbox version, they better fucking fix that because it's honestly kind of pathetic because like it is genuinely bad. Like it is not like, oh, I'm at like locked 30 frames versus 60 frames. Like, it feels like you're at like 20 frames. It's just not good. Yeah, I really like the set pieces.
Oh yeah, the set pieces, I guess, in terms of those, I fuck with all the set pieces. Pretty much all of them.
Mostly all done.
Yeah.
It's the strength of the game for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I fucking hated in the art design, going back to suits, the fucking Miles suit at the end was so
That
fucking
got so much
terrible.
hate. It's crazy.
Yeah,
dude, it deserves it.
Like it just comes out of nowhere too, because like, how did he have time? He's just like, yo,
dude,
yeah.
Again, it's one of those weird like narrative pacing things, and like he's like, yo, it's a Miles Morales original. It's like, bro, you had a whole game where you made a Miles Morales original. Like the Colgate suit was not it, and it's like, why are you showing off
the
your
Colgate
hair?
suit.
Like
Yeah.
you're trying to be like you're trying to have a secret identity, and you're like, hey guys, look, I have a certain type of hair, so that drastically narrows down who Spider-Man could fucking be, especially like since it's somewhat known that he's like in Harlem at this point. So
Yeah.
I just needed to like bitch about it for a second because we
Nah,
talked
me
about the
too.
suits and most of the suits are amazing, but that one like legitimately made me like groan when I saw it.
Mhm.
But the one thing I did like was some of the suits to touch back, and this goes I think more to like the technical side of things too. If you wore any of the Spider-Verse suits, it kept the same frame rate as the movies
cool.
did. So the suits were
That's sick.
animated
Yeah,
and moved
yeah.
differently than the environment. So I didn't play the entire game with that because I think it would have just given me a headache after a while. But it was like a cool touch.
There's a really cool thing I saw people do on TikTok where they would put on the Spider-Man noir suit, and then they would use like the colorblind like accessibility settings to basically make everything black and white to really create like a noir like Spider-Man experience.
That's sick.
Yeah, I saw that.
fuck
And it's
with
really
that.
cool.
It's very good.
Okay. Sound design. Want to jump over to that real quick?
Sure.
I'll loop in Yuri Lowenthal's performance in this, and Najee Jeter. I thought that Yuri Lowenthal's performance was really really great as Peter. Like, and I was even watching some cutscenes back on YouTube before we recorded, and I was like, man, just like the way he like interacts with Harry during all those scenes where he's just like trying to like figure out what he wants to do with his future and like getting a job. The scenes where he's kind of arguing with MJ, and even the scenes where he's kind of like trying to mentor Miles. Like, there's so many different levels that Yuri's actually hitting
Yeah.
on all those different performances with all those different characters that he's interacting with. And honestly, like I thought he was a fully fleshed out, totally great Peter Parker. So I thought the performance was really good. And I love Najee Jeter as Miles Morales as well. I thought same thing, like interacting with a lot of different characters, a lot of beats. Although he was kind of like, he is a little more one note than I think Peter did, but Peter Parker got to be, or he's Miles' character in this game is more one note than Peter, but that's just because of the
Yeah.
writing, not because of the performances, right?
Yeah,
just
he
didn't
had
have
a
enough
really great
inspiration.
performance in the Miles Morales game. So I would agree with that
Yeah.
is the writing, I think, gave him a ceiling of how much he can express.
Right.
Um, I know we talked about this in the nominees pod for the Game Awards,
Yeah.
but I actually really liked Bully Lowenthal's, symbiote Peter voice. I know
Yeah.
I know it's
I
just
did
a
not
growl,
like it.
but
You didn't like
Nah.
it?
I thought it worked well. Like, especially when he
know, I
was
thought it
talking
was-
shit to the lizard and being like, "This is why your family left you." Like, it just maybe I liked it because it was funny as fuck at the same time. But it's how I
It's pretty funny,
imagine,
though.
like, but every recreation of symbiote Peter, I feel like, has some comedy to it because it's so against like the character of Peter Parker that we understand. And I
Yeah.
think like, and I maybe going back, like connecting to Lucas's point, I think Yuri did a good job being like moving from mentor family Peter to fuck the world and all their problems Peter, or the suit is fucking mine Peter. Like the lizard
Mhm.
fight, what saved that shit for me was the amount of shit talking Peter was doing that entire time and just rubbing salt on the wound that Connors is a lonely old man, like whose family fucking left him. Like that shit was great for me. And when you're doing the side missions and hearing like the attitude change of Peter going from like friendly with civilians to like sounding
Get away from
annoyed
me.
and saying
Yeah.
exactly, or like I always got to save this city. Like I like that Yuri was able to like transition in and out of that because he eventually obviously comes back to being like the Peter we are accustomed to and want to see at the end of the story. So
Yeah.
I think he had more opportunities to be dynamic. Maybe the voice itself is less to be desired, but I do think his ability to like do the range into the villain role for a good chunk of the game, I tip my hat. And Tony Todd as Venom was fucking excellent. I do want to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like 10 out of 10 Venom voice. What I hoped and expected, knowing like that villain was coming. And I think he's pretty pretty like active in horror, right? I think he was a Candyman for a movie
Okay.
or two, if I'm not
I'm not sure.
mistaken.
Oh, okay.
But but like he fit right in, and I like Venom's voice personally a lot. So throw that
Okay.
out there too.
Yeah, I'll
Matt.
mostly follow everything you guys said. Not too much to add there. The only thing I disagree with is not caring for Peter's Venom. I just think it sounds and maybe it is supposed to be comical, but in my mind they're portraying me to be more intense, but it just comes off as like awkward and funny to me. But maybe I guess it depends on the intent there. I don't know what the intent is actually. So
I could shed a tiny bit of light because I was doing some reading earlier. Because I was reading an interview that Yuri did, and he mentioned his inspiration for like the symbiote Peter side is trying to like sound like somebody that's like fighting an addiction or is in the deep of their addiction and is scared of like losing the thing they're addicted to. So I think that's where he's coming from. But now that I say that out loud, that sounds way more serious than me laughing at Yuri's portrayal half the time. So I might be shooting myself in the foot here, but I think that was the idea. Is it wasn't supposed to be like intense, dark, and evil, but like somebody clinging on to the one thing they feel like they need. And maybe it's almost to the point where like it's hyperbolic of like how badly
Yeah.
they need it.
Yeah.
So not to
I-
disprove
I-
or prove a point, but
One last thing I have on sound design is I am so over. I don't know if you guys still are on this train still, but I'm just really over like little quips in like, oh, guess I should have stretched before this one, like, or like, I don't know, just like really lame, like
I don't mind. That's
kind
like
of thro-
Spider-Man's thing. That's always been
Yeah.
his thing.
Yeah, I just
it's
like
lore
I don't know,
appropriate.
like I guess,
Yeah.
but like there's good and there's bad, and there's
Like when
definitely
he's
a lot of bad
like
ones.
to the bear guy, he's like, "I'm all out of honey."
Yeah,
that
that's
shit
bad
was
luck.
so good.
That's a bad one for me.
No, that was great.
That's
Everyone
a
loved
really
that
lame one.
No,
What?
you're
You're
No,
hating,
like-
dude.
Now, just
You're in the
like
This is
minority
not
on
level
that,
of
boss.
hating.
Maybe I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, maybe
Or like,
I,
be- You need to be like a proton, Lucas. Stay positive.
oh my god, that was
That's
lame,
like
too.
playing God of War and being mad that Kratos is like very serious. Like that's just what the character is, you know?
No, but like it's not not as binary as that. It's like there are good versions of like a quip in the middle of combat, and there are bad versions. Do you not agree?
I don't think these are bad.
You think none of them were
Same.
bad?
Not like I mean, I didn't go through the fucking audio files, but like
The quip list.
overall, I think they were I think they were better. There's more good ones than there are bad ones for sure, I would say.
Okay.
And I also think bad quips are also a part of his character too. Like in every
Yeah.
version of Spider-Man, like he's actively kind of learning how to shit talk. Like he's not a master of it. So some of it comes off, and there's been comics and portrayals in the cartoons where they'll comment like, "What the fuck are you saying?" Like they look at him like, "Why are you making this lame ass joke in the middle of a fight?" So
Yeah.
it's lore
That's me.
appropriate, so it gets a pass.
All right,
well,
let's
you're hating.
let's jump into
I'm hating.
NPC award, I think. Yeah, NPC award. I guess I'll start. Big Genki fan, just kind of a guy helping everyone out. Yeah, not a lot more to say about that. There really isn't that many memorable NPCs in this game.
I
I
mean,
guess Harry.
You
but
play as
all the
half the
bosses-
fucking cast
I
at
was
some
gonna say you
point.
play as
Well-
Harry.
Well, all the
Um,
bosses.
I don't think they're that memorable. I guess Craven's cool, but no,
I
I'm
was-
going Genki.
I just picked Mr. Negative just because he actually kind of saves the day.
He does. He has a full circle moment.
Yeah. And I don't know what he did in the
actually
other
is
games. I
pretty
guess
cool.
he killed some guy. I guess he killed Miles' dad or something in the other game.
Mhm. Or,
Yeah,
and
but-
caused
And, like,
his death or
A good,
yeah.
and a good chunk of New
Killed a
York
lot
too.
of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
his whole circle moment's kind of
he
fun. It's like
ends up-
you can. Go ahead.
Your anti-venom now is like his full circle moment is like what he ends up doing. So I think for the actual plot, he's probably like one of the most important characters.
Yeah.
One of the most important NPCs, I guess I should say.
All right.
If I had to pick one,
So,
Jay Jonah. I always
Okay,
like
it's
Jay
actually
Jonah.
Jonah.
Yeah. Jay Jonah's hard to
That's
beat. Lucas, did you go Mr. Negative?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Negative
yeah.
on that one.
All right. Companion piece pick. Ooh, can I start? I want to start.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Gen V / The Boys here. I don't know if you two have watched that series, that universe on Amazon Prime, but it is honestly, I think probably the best superhero media in any form to come out in the past, we'll say 10 years, five. No, since Avengers Endgame, I'll say that. By far the best superhero media to come out through Avengers Endgame. It is very real, it is brutal, it is intense, and it's a very refreshing take on superheroes. It's a very realistic take on what they would actually be like. And if anyone is feeling, likes the idea of superheroes, but is feeling a bit jaded by maybe the Marvel universe, DC, or even, the Spider-Man games, I recommend you give the shows a watch. It's a very fun take on the superhero genre. And then just honorable mention as well to Invincible. That season 2 is airing right now, and that is also an extremely good show.
Everyone is so
Um,
everyone's
also,
telling me to watch those right
I
now.
still haven't watched the
on
second
Amazon Prime.
season.
Yeah, both those shows are incredible.
Tim, what do you got for a companion piece pick?
Dude, so I'm gonna full on admit I kind of forgot that this was a category until right before recording, and
It's all good.
I'm still struggling. Because I usually try to like to pick things that are thematic, but I feel like the friend turn enemy trope is just so fucking overdone. So I'm gonna go with the fun, like the fun obvious pick, Spider-Man 3, directed by Sam Raimi. Another
Okay.
take
Oh,
on
yeah, that's
Venom.
good.
Still it carries the Harry turn from friend to villain, but in that one back to friend again. I actually like that depiction of the symbiote, like not Venom itself, but when Peter's like ultimately kills the symbiote, I kind of liked the monstrosity of it because the symbiote is supposed to be this giant monstrous thing. And this game made me laugh. Spider-Man 3 makes me laugh. So they go
All
hand in
right.
hand for me.
Yeah.
All right. For my companion piece pick, I'm actually going with Spider-Man, the 1967 cartoon, from that we get all the classic, stupid,
Memes.
crummy looking memes
Yeah.
from. So it was funny because I was like just kind of
Tight.
looking at it again, like the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme. That's from the 1967
Yeah.
Yeah.
cartoon. And honestly, there's this cartoon had like that meme has stood the test of time. Like that's probably never gonna die, but there was like a point where like in the early 2010s where this cartoon was memed a lot, and people would just take like any screenshot of it and just put a caption over it, and it would be funny because it just looks so bad. Like ones
Yeah,
of
I remember
Spider-Man
that
sitting at a
era.
desk. I remember seeing those
Yeah.
like on Tumblr or like
Yeah.
whatever. Like, yeah, this was that was a pretty funny time. So I encourage everybody to go around and go take a trip down memory lane and just Google Spider-Man 1967. I've never personally watched the cartoon. I don't have any plans to, but legendary nonetheless.
Love it. All right. Favorite moment. I had two. I did actually enjoy the Miles versus Peter because I like that it showed that Miles
was
is
mine.
actually a lot stronger.
Yeah.
By virtue part. I guess it kind of evens out maybe a little bit. Well, no, because he's beating Peter's ass with the full symbiote, so the anti-symbiote doesn't really even it out. Miles is just stronger. I think that's really cool that they just straight up show that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Miles is honest. I don't think maybe you guys mentioned this and missed it, but I also think Miles is by far just the more fun character to play as in the game too. I think his powers are way more interesting than Peter's. Like his gadgets and his or not, I guess they have the same, but his abilities rather are way
Yeah.
more fun and interesting than Peter's, and make the combo game more interesting. So I preferred that. Um, and then I really enjoyed Harry versus Craven as well when Peter gets stabbed. Um, I loved seeing like Peter just kind of go sicko or Harry go sicko mode a little bit, and just seeing. And I love seeing characters kind of like break stop fighting conventionally, and it's just like pure um instinct and I guess brutality in that sense. And like Harry was straight
Mm.
up overpowering Craven until he realized he had to go save Peter. So I was into that. I thought it was a cool fight.
Hmm. Yeah, my favorite moment is definitely the Miles Peter fight. Um, I think it's like honestly, I know that it wasn't the climax, or I knew that it wasn't going to be like the climactic fight because you actually tell the game will tell you how many main missions you have left because there's 31 main missions, and you see that that's like
Oh, yeah.
mission 21 or whatever. Um, so I was like, man, how is this not like the most dramatic fight in the game? I was kind of like blown away because I feel like that was kind of like everything leading up to it, like establishing the relationship between these two characters, young versus old, like the old generation versus the new generation, symbiote versus like the non-symbiote. I just thought it was like a perfect setup for like the the game for what we were like kind of shown and promised and expected. But yeah, just I mean, it's a great fight. I think it's a lot of fun. It's really like cinematic. It's got a great arena. It's got a great set piece to go along with it and a good mission. But yeah, I just think it probably could have been closer to the end as like a little bit more of a climactic fight. I don't know. I don't know how they would have reworked the story for that to work, but it was kind of like they did that and then they follow up with some junk a little bit after that with like uh I think like I think the wait no I think it's that one and then the Craven fight as Venom, and then the Scream fight or something like that. It's just
Yes, that
there's like
sounds right.
there's some junk bosses that come after that that like it definitely they shouldn't have followed up that one. Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, Timron? Favorite moment?
With you guys with Miles versus Peter, so I won't pick that one. I mentioned I love Peter tweaking, but that's because I thought it was funny. And this is where I might depart. This is where I definitely depart from you, Lucas. I actually really enjoyed playing as Venom. Because the game did
I just
kind of a cool little.
didn't
I
get
like
me.
Well,
playing as
didn't
Venom.
work
It
on
was
me.
funny.
Yeah, well, what I
Just, like,
kind of
play as the
liked
big
in that
strong guy
moment.
and spam a button.
Okay, well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
when Venom, when Harry becomes Venom, the game does the cinematic thing before every boss fight where like it kind of angles like the enemy's far away, Peter gets into the center, so it's almost like, oh shit, we're about to fight Venom now. And then that moment's interrupted by Norman and his security forces barging in, and then the camera pans to Venom. And I thought that was a really cool moment where they kind of the one of the few moments I think they kind of subverted my expectations. And personally, I liked playing as the big, dumb, strong, like brute. And for me, as a fan, Venom is top of the rogues gallery for most people. So having an opportunity to play as a character that is revered in the lore, one of my favorites, no matter what medium we're talking about, and just and also just like go fucking ape shit on Norman Osborn's croons because Norman's a piece of shit in every Spider-Man narrative was just fun and it was a cool moment. So it might not be the best moment in terms of narrative, but as a fan, that was definitely a for me moment.
Yeah, I guess without the fandom component for me, it just everything that we criticized about like combat, if just pushing one button over and over again and then occasionally dodging or occasionally swinging somewhere, like it was even more so when you were Venom. It was all that where like you were just an indestructible. You were in full on like Spartan rage mode for like 10 minutes and it's like okay, like I get it. Like I get that they want to make you feel really powerful in this moment and give you this opportunity to play as this iconic character, but what it's come down to is me spamming two buttons over and over again for 10 minutes. And that just doesn't work. The illusion falls at that point for me.
I
Well,
liked it.
I ate that shit out of
Yeah, yeah, like
Insomniac's fucking hands, so I don't know what
yeah.
to tell you.
Is it? I mean,
Yeah.
I
Guys ate it up.
I think it. I think both can be true. That it's not good game design, but that it was also very fun because it's very cool to play as an iconic. I mean, they're not going to
That's
totally
not a real take,
flesh
Matt.
out.
That's a weak.
That is a good.
That's a
take.
non-contentious thing to say.
No, it is not. I mean, you can say that it was boring, but you can say that in your opinion it was not boring, but bad game design. But like, so many fanboys, myself included, are going to love having the opportunity for a quick 10-minute section as Venom. Like, obviously, it's not fleshed out if it's only that one moment. Like, nah, it's fine, and it's like it's good. Is it that
Okay.
exciting? Nah, but like the two buttons, nah, but it's an exciting moment because of what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could have been a quick time event then, maybe. I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe next time I play it, I'll turn off the settings.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Nitpicks. We've dug into it quite a bit. I
Covered
think
a
for me, the
lot of it,
biggest
yeah.
thing is it's just very repetitive. It's a very repetitive game at the end of the day. I think with the combat, I think the boss battles are kind of, for me, pretty weak. And I think it's kind of a copy paste from the story. In a lot of ways, the second game, the state of the world in the second game ends somewhat similarly to the first game, where there's two Spider-Men and Harry's still sick. So yeah, I think the could have done something more interesting there. I think honestly, I think a braver choice would have just been to kill off Harry. Obviously, that would have. They kind of hint at the end of the game that there's going to be the Green Goblin serum coming through with
Yeah.
But obviously they can still have Norman as a Green Goblin. So I don't know. I think it would have been braver just to kill him. Would have been more interesting, more impactful, rather than like a mildly happy ending, I guess. So yeah, just me. Do you guys have
That's one
anything
of
else
the
to add?
that's just like one of the pitfalls of like a franchise in general is just like you can't really kill off a key character, otherwise you can't have like a proper continuation or like a real sequel thing going on. So like not killing Harry, although it's like more lame, they gotta not kill him because it leaves something else later that they can do.
Yeah.
That's always how it's gonna be.
It's
But
okay. They did the cop out of making him
so-
brain dead, so it's
yeah,
like he's
brain
dead,
dead,
but not
but
really.
he's not gonna be later. Yeah, I guarantee you that he's
No,
gonna do something later.
but
My
I agree
nitpick,
with. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
no, you go for it. We're on Harry.
I was gonna
Go
say
for
I
it.
agree with Matt too because at the ending of the game, Norman clearly wants revenge on Spider-Man, and I feel like if Harry died, we could have seen a really brutal version of the Green Goblin that we haven't really seen before. So I feel like I used the term missed opportunity multiple times. I think this was another one. Like having Harry dead, I think could have set us up for a really awesome villain moment. But the fact that Harry's alive, I feel like there's a ceiling to like how Green Goblin's going to be as a villain.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, like we could call it now. Harry's gonna fucking live. He's gonna be back to being Peter's friend. They're gonna reconcile in some fucking way when he's put back together mentally. So yeah, I would have appreciated a braver choice with Harry.
Real quick, you know what is interesting? I'm actually pretty surprised by. They killed
Hmm.
off basically all of the Sinister Six. I mean, obviously there's still Doc Ock, but like Scorpion's killed.
Oh,
Rhino
that's
is
right.
killed.
Shocker's killed.
Shocker's killed. I guess Sandman's still alive, but I don't know if he's
Electro's still around, I think,
Electra.
right?
Yeah, but they killed off quite a. Vulture's dead. That's they
Oh
finally
yeah,
have
Vulture's
wingsuit.
dead too.
Mhm.
So I was pretty surprised they killed off that many of like the key characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's cool he did, but I was just to your point, Lucas. Like I'm very surprised he outright killed off anyone.
Yeah.
All right.
My
Ooh,
nitpick real
alternate-
quick before we
Oh,
leave
go
this
ahead.
one.
Yeah.
I did have some just small nitpick with some of the arenas in the game, like when you would kind of enter a mission and start fighting. I think some of them were just a little bit janky. There was like moments where
Mm.
you would just start swinging or you would dodge into a wall or it just wasn't big enough. And those are real big pet peeves of mine when you're like trying to design like a game around combat is when like the arena is too small in some zones where like certain death animations or certain like kill animations just don't look good or just like the camera's just all of a sudden inside of Spider-Man against the wall or something or it's
Yeah.
too crowded or something like that.
Mhm.
And there was also like kind of arenas where you would fight in where it was like multi-tiered where there'd be like gunmen up here, gunmen over here, which is cool when it's really open, but when they're stacked on top of each other like in a weird way, like you do this weird thing where you have to kind of run up the wall but then you like overshoot it and then like you kind of start swinging and the game just is one of the strengths of the game is not like a large arena, it's kind of a small condensed with like very little walls, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Alternate names. I got. This was just a dumb one. Peter Parker in the Shadow of Webs, and then I got Miles Morales saves the day again. That's all I got. I can't really. I was having trouble coming up with any fun ones this time. I'll be honest.
My only thing is I think that my rename this game I had like Spider-Man United, Spider-Man Symbiote, whatever. But I think that generally it just should have probably, I know it's Spider-Man 2, but I think it just should have had another subtitle and been like Spider-Man something. Because like
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily need
It's-
to do it. It could just be Spider-Man, then there's Spider-Man Miles Morales.
I'm glad you bring
'Cause-
that up because as I was trying to come up with a name, when we come up with the names, they're like derived from the original name, right? And that's why this was so hard to find a good alternative name because it's just Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think that they should have not numbered them and just stuck to like kind of a chronological, like a cool like sub name for every one of them. Because
Yeah.
now we got these now we got a weird sequel numbering problem coming up here for the next Spider-Man game.
Like the third main
Is it Spider-Man
Spider-Man
Miles
game is gonna be
Morales?
like, yeah.
Miles
Oh, actually, no, yeah, the
Morales
third
2?
game's
Like
yeah, that's
the
fair.
next Spider-Man game will be Miles as the main character and it'll have to be called Miles Morales 2. So people are gonna be going like, "Oh, are you playing Spider-Man Miles Morales 2 or Spider-Man 2?" It's like we got a problem.
That's a
already,
good
bro.
point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, real
They don't think
quick.
about this when they're creating sequel names, bro. They don't think.
They
They don't think
don't.
about these things. They always
They're
mess
not
up.
cooked. They're
Timron,
not
do you have
cooking
any?
enough.
Yeah.
I had
not.
2, and I feel pretty proud of them. First one kind of is like falls in line with what we're talking about. I had Spider-Man: The Hunt Begins. Um,
Mm.
and then next one, We Are Spider-Man.
Ooh, I like that.
I like
I
that.
like that. I was
So
trying to come
reflects
up
the
with a
Venom
zone-
aspect.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the IGN review of Spider-Man?
No.
I did not, but they gave it an 8, which I thought
They
was
gave it an
pretty
8.
brave for IGN.
There's a line in that review. I was trying to turn it into some kind of like rename this game thing for this segment. I just want to mention it. The line is literally, "You will get so many miles out of playing this game. The joy never really peters out." That was like something an IGN reviewer said. I'm like
That's
paraphrasing,
actually-
but he says like miles of enjoyment, and then he says peters out in like
That's
in the
incredible.
same sentence.
I love it.
And I had the biggest eye roll
Damn.
of all time when he said it. And I was like, Jesus
Um,
Christ.
Just another thing I want to note really quick that I thought was interesting was that they were introducing the at the end here, in like the after credit scene, they introduce Sydney Moon into the game, into that
Mhm.
universe, which I thought was pretty cool. Those that aren't aware, the lore of Sydney Moon is she plays she is bitten by the same spider as Peter Parker. And in the comics, I mean, this won't be the case this game, this in this universe for obvious reason, but in her original run in the comics, her and Spider-Man actually have like an extremely sexual relationship at first because basically since they were bit by the same spider, like their like I guess pheromones or whatever for each other are just like they can't control their impulses basically. It's almost compulsive. The person that wrote that has since then said he regretted writing it that way.
Yeah, sounds kind of
yeah.
cringe lord in a way.
But and obviously she's younger in this, so they definitely won't do that here. But I wonder if they might try and integrate something where like her and Miles were maybe bit by the same spider or something to that effect.
That's what I
don't
would
know.
guess.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that. I think it'd be cool to have. I'm surprised it's not a spider. Oh, obviously not a Spider Gwen because I think Gwen Stacy's probably already somewhere in this universe. But whether we get a Spider Gwen or a Sydney Moon or a Spider Woman, whatever it is, I think it'd be very cool to potentially play as a girl Spider Woman. And that's repetitive. You know what I mean? A Spider Woman in the future.
we
other
hear
than
you. We hear you.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
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 So I'm excited about
Cool.
that.
All right.
All right.
Let's.
Final thoughts.
I think I'll hold my tongue here. I think I said enough. I think we're good.
All right. Shall we move forward to the ratings?
Let's do it.
All right. On the count of 3, we all give a rating out of 10.
Mhm.
This is the ultimate rating that usurps everything, including IGN and anyone out there. On 3, 1, 2, 3, 7.
8.
Tim was a little lagged out there, but I think we
Yeah.
8, 8, and a 7.
Yeah.
So what does that average
I'm
out
surprised I'm the lowest, actually. So that 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 8 is 23. 23 divided by 3.
to? 30.
30. Is math?
Yeah, hang on. Let me Google this real quick. 23
It's
divided
a
by
high.
30.
It's a high 70s.
It's a
76%.
76%.
Yeah.
Okay.
76 repeating.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. You know, I think my biggest thing with the game is it doesn't really, like I kind of echoed at the beginning, it's probably it is the safest game to come out this year, I would say. You know, it does no wrong. It doesn't, but because it does no wrong, it takes no risks. It doesn't ever really excel anywhere. I think the combat's really not that exciting, but I think you get a very playable game that is fun. That traversal is really fun. And
No bugs.
No
game
bugs.
breaking
It's very
anything, you
clean,
know?
very polished.
Yeah.
You won't be mad you play this game.
Yeah.
But unless you're the most diehard Spider-Man fan in the world, don't expect to be wowed by this game.
This is not game of the
in any
year.
capacity. And that's another thing
No.
too. You know, it was even nominated. Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think it was also nominated for game direction. I could be wrong on that.
It was.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
crazy.
It was.
And I don't know. That's,
And narrative.
That is why this podcast is so important because we have idiots like because those nominees are decided by like industry people.
Yeah.
It
Ga-
is
Best
insane
game
to
of the year
me.
and
Yeah,
game direction. It's on for both.
that
And it's on for
is
best narrative.
that
Yeah.
is awful. That it is on for both. It did
And
not deserve
action
to be for
adventure
both.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very disappointing, and I'm sure there were better options out there. So, game critics, do better.
Well, just make sure. I honestly, if this wins anything, I'd be very surprised because it would have to win game of the year or game direction. Everything else
Wasn't
is
it in
probably
like action adventure or something though too?
Yeah, it's in the action
it, it,
adventure
it might
category as well.
it might win action adventure if it's going to win anything, but it's up against Legend of Zelda and Resident Evil 4 and Alan Wake. So
Mm.
I don't like if
Mm.
it's gonna win anything, it's gonna be, but I don't think it's gonna take that category.
Alan Wake is a
I
trip
feel
so
like
far,
for
in my
whatever
opinion.
reason, I could see it winning that, but Zelda winning like the bigger awards, if that makes sense.
I see Zelda winning both.
Like,
TBH.
but I see like they're gonna like the industry giving Spider-Man something for some reason. I just feel like
It
it's
was
gonna be an
also there
upset
for
somewhere.
audio design. Yuri was there for best performance.
Yeah,
and
I'm
was
into that.
also nominated
I'm into
for
I'm fine with that.
accessibility. I didn't explore the accessibility too much, but I mean, the Street Fighter 6 accessibility was so impressive. I have a hard time believing.
Yeah, I don't
that,
think it's gonna win in accessibility.
anything will usurp that. But
Yeah.
cool. All right, we've been
All
going
right.
for a minute today. That was a fun one, everyone. I hope
Yeah,
everyone
that was
enjoyed the
great.
live stream out there.
Yeah.
A lot of fun today. Hopefully, we will be doing more of these live streams in the future. So look forward to that. And well, maybe this will already happen this Wednesday, but Luke's and I are going to start streaming weekly on the TFP channel. So tune in for that. So in addition, with the
Yep.
Monday recordings, which is the day we usually record, which those live episodes will release Thursday, I will be streaming on Tuesdays. I'm 99% sure I'm going to be streaming on Tuesdays moving forward. So look forward to that. Either Tuesdays or Thursday, 99% sure Tuesdays. Lucas will be taking our Wednesday slot.
Hopefully, Chambers takes the Thursday
Chambers
slot.
will likely be taking Thursday or another day, and we're trying to get Hot Mickey on board as well. So you can expect some quality TFP content, hopefully several days, at least 4 days a week, I think, out of the week now moving forward.
Yeah,
So
yeah, nightly.
that's pretty
basically.
exciting. Nightly TFP forever. So look forward to that, everyone. As always, you can join our Discord at thankspforplaying.live. You can find the link there. Or go to TFP Podcasts. That's TFP Podcast with an S at the end. Go to the link tree in any of our social media handles. You'll find a link to our Discord as well as a whole bunch of our other cool stuff. Go check it out. It's a good time. All right, everyone. This has been Thanks for Playing.